Hello and welcome. Thank you so much for tuning in. Let us take a deep breath. Woo! And one more. And here we most deliciously are. Thank you for joining. My name is Alara Cutchinson, author of Living Peace. I'm a life coach and Zen teacher and also the owner of this building, also known as the Zen Cowboy here in beautiful Bayfield, Colorado. Today, I'm going to be talking a bit about a chapter from my book, Living Peace. Last week was actually our first Sunday service for the church we're starting here in Bayfield. And tomorrow, because tonight is actually Saturday night, so tomorrow we're having another service every week now at 1 p.m. on Sundays. And I wanted to just start to share a bit about what I'm talking about as I go through these teachings on Sundays and make them into videos. So for folks who are not able to attend, you still get to hear some of the juicy tidbits of what we're covering. And of course, right now I am having an early release promotion for my book. And so I'll put a link down below if you yourself or someone you know would like a signed copy, a personalized signed copy, because I always put a few more words in there than just signing it. And then we will, once we get the shipment in, hopefully this coming week, we will go ahead and ship it to you. So you will have your very own copy of Living Peace, personally signed and blessed. Love it. So let's take a deep breath and then we'll get going. Whew, good stuff. So last week and then tomorrow, I will be wrapping up this conversation I started, and it is one of the beginning chapters of my book, focusing on the 3 aspects of ego. So my book mostly entails the 9 tenets, the 9 living peace tenets that we live by, such as mastery of thought, mastery of impulse, mastery of emotion. Then we go into the 3 illusions, then the 3 attachments. All of that is fantastic. But if you don't have a really solid understanding of what ego is, because we mention it quite a bit and how it kind of gets in the way of our own self-awareness, not that great. We won't have that much success. And so for this second edition of Living Peace, I made a chapter all on its own of ego and broke it down into segments, calling it the 3 aspects of ego, which is I call the push, pull, or hold tight complex. Let me repeat that, the push, pull, or hold tight complex. So yeah, pretty juicy stuff. What I realized over the years was a lot of people have this misunderstanding of what ego is. Normally when I would ask new students or clients what ego is, they would just say, what comes to mind is an arrogant person or a narcissist. What we really don't realize is that pretty much any negative emotion or any negative thought that we're having stems from some aspect of the ego that can go into kind of our fight or flight mode response, the parasympathetic, sympathetic mode within our body that we get triggered and then all of a sudden we're reacting to a situation or fleeing from it, which may look like shutting down and not communicating. And so it's so much more than just this idea of arrogance or self-inflation. It also is the flip side of the coin when we are full of self-pity, when we feel victimized, that is also ego. So ego is anytime we are not fully in that alignment with our mind and body. There's not that mind-body harmony to where we can be relaxed and at peace within ourselves. And so we're either self-criticizing or criticizing others, or we're self-inflating and putting down others. So it's a very fascinating thing, and the push-pull hold-tight complex really kind of brings it home. So let's go ahead and just jump into that. For those of you who want to participate, actively participate, you can write some notes down. And so first, I'll just kind of define each of the push, pull, hold tight, and then I'm going to read a few segments from the book. So the push, that is resistance, and that has to do with our dislikes. So anytime we dislike anything in life, we will often push against it. We are going to be resistant to it. Who has ever not wanted to go into work on a certain day or every day? Raise your hands. Who has felt resistance to going into work? Well, that is the push. You're pushing against. And what's fascinating is that's just the ego not wanting to do something. And a lot of times people say, I'm just so drained at work, blah, 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 I can't stand it. Well, it's actually your negative thoughts that are making it 10 times harder on yourself. You are drained before you even get to work, because maybe the night before you were already you were kind of mulling over the day that you had, you brought work home, and then now it's first thing in the morning, you're already dreading it. So what you're doing is that your ego is draining your life force, draining your chi energy, draining your jala. And by the time you get to work, you're already in that foul mood. You're already kind of prickly. You're already in that fight or flight mode. And so this kind of resistance can be applied to anything in life that we don't like or we don't want to deal with. And unfortunately, when we come at it from that standpoint, it just makes things 1,000 times worse. It is not helpful in the slightest. And so in my training programs and in my client sessions, I really teach people how to be neutral about life, how to let go of these opinions about these things that we dislike and stop judging ourselves and judging other people, because it just saps your energy and it makes life much more difficult to handle. And then we have the pool. The pool is interesting because it's another way of saying anything we're chasing after or grasping for. We're pulling it towards us. And so it's anything we're pulling towards us or, again, chasing after. It's that graspy nature, the things that we like and we want more of. And a lot of times this takes the form of pleasure and excitement. And we try to maintain these levels of excitement or pleasure in our lives. Often it can lead to addictions, soft or heavy addictions. I mean, we all have some addiction to some extent that takes the edge off life. But it can also take the form of, always planning, always thinking of the future and thinking that, oh, well, once I go on this vacation, then I'll have a break, then I'll feel good. Or once I get married, or once I get a relationship, once I get this promotion, or once I get this job. And so there's just always something more to do. There's always just something more that you're chasing after. And by the time you actually get to the thing that you wanted, quickly that satisfaction fades away, and then you set a new thing, a new goal that you're working towards. Again, goals are not negative things. I think they're fantastic, but we want to make sure we're not getting caught up in the egotistical way of chasing after goals, thinking that once we achieve this, then we'll finally be happy. Bullshit. We have to learn to be happy in the moment, because as you will know, you can even reflect back on your life right now. All the times you've set goals, or you wanted a relationship, you wanted a job, then all of a sudden it actually ends up bringing you stress, because again, everything is a mixed bag. Literally, this is something I realized. Everything I ever wanted in my life, all the big accomplishments, eventually ended up leading to further stress, or further a bit of anxiety, or for even heartbreak. We all wanted that relationship, but then it didn't really work out. Or we wanted that promotion, but then we didn't realize the workload it was going to be. Or we wanted that job, but we didn't realize all that it would entail. For me, even when I was like a teenager, I wanted to be a lead when I was playing the saxophone, or when I was in the play. But then, holy shit, you have to do a ton more work to be in that role. And so it's funny how it's like, oh, I get this like recognition, or this validation, or maybe more money, or maybe a sense of love. But with it comes all these other things on how to maintain it. Again, I'm not saying that it's not healthy to have goals and to proceed forward with your life. What I'm saying is, don't put all your eggs in that one basket. That's why we want to cultivate that inner peace within. Thus, the book, everything within it helps us achieve inner peace. So whatever does or doesn't happen, it doesn't sway us. We're able to be unconditional in our happiness, unconditional in our peace. Good stuff. I like it. So let us see. I like it without being attached to it. Oh, there we go. So then there is the holding tight. And a lot of times this takes the form of holding on to jobs that we hate, holding on to relationships that we're not pleased with. And we just get so caught up into holding on something that is just not really working out, but it's working out just enough. Because we're afraid to be alone, or afraid to not have anything. And so something is better than nothing. And then we just kind of get caught up in this, but it can also take the form of outdated old belief systems that is actually causing us harm. And so it's like we get so set firm in our ways that we're not open to other possibilities, or other people, other situations. And it just really ends up leading to a lot of resentment. And then what the paragraph I'll read on that will explain even more. But generally that stems from fear. And so it's like the push stems from resistance, the pull stems from the things that we like, and then the holding tight often stems from fear. So let us read, let us dive in. So the push, when we push against anything in life, this is the part of our ego that is filled with dislikes, acting out. Anything that causes us discomfort or pain, we resist and attempt to push it away or push it down. Pushing often manifests as impatience, frustration, and anger. Again, key phrase is resisting life. Pulling or grasping is the part of our ego that is filled with likes. Anything we feel will bring us pleasure, satisfaction, or happiness, we may find ourselves grasping for, chasing after, and pulling it towards us. Pulling can manifest as flightiness, neurotic euphoria, and extreme highs followed by extreme lows, often accompanied by low self-worth, defeatism, and even depression. Key phrase for pulling is chasing life. Holding tight comes from the part of our ego that is insecure, doubtful, and afraid. Whatever comforts give us the sense of security or love that we currently have, even when it's subpar, they become the things we hold tight and fear parting with, since something is better than nothing. This often takes the form of not wanting to let go of abusive relationships, toxic work environments, and addictions, even when they are destroying our lives. In short, we latch onto what is familiar because we are fearful of the unknown or doubtful that anything better could come our way. It manifests as controlling and manipulative behavior of self and others, usually by means of guilt or fear. Key phrase, doubting life. So when we're in that hold tight behavior, we often end up controlling the people around us to kind of keep things the way we want them to be rather than letting things flow freely. Ooh, let's take a deep breath. That's some good stuff. And so another way, and I'm not going to read the full part because it will take a while, but it's also a plug for Living Peace if you want to dive in yourselves. But it's true. I worked very hard. I worked very hard and long on this book, and it cost a pretty penny to make. So all the support is genuinely appreciated. But let's go into this. Again, reverse. So the reverse push I call calm acceptance. Anger and judgmental attitudes stem from hard and fast opinions about things that we may deem wrong or bad. We see something we don't like and we are ready to go to war with it. War, we are right. However, or WAR, we are right. However, 99% of the time, we don't need to have an opinion about what's going on outside ourselves or in anyone else's life. Instead, we can just accept people and situations as they are. So rather than being all fed up and upset at things, either things in our control or outside of our control, we can practice calm acceptance. And that just really starts to, when we remove our opinions from situations, even opinions from ourselves, it really starts to bring in this calmness, it brings in this acceptance that starts to soothe. And I go deeper into that in the book. Reverse pull would be accept and let go. What I love about this is that we all hear stories of people that like achieve their happily ever after. It's all bullshit. Like this idea of happily ever after doesn't work. That doesn't mean there isn't like these not fantasy, but fairy tales that do come true. Yeah, there's plenty of beautiful things that happen. But this idea that just forevermore there won't be conflict or difficulties, that's not how it works. But when it comes to inner peace, we change the way in which we approach these conflicts, and thus the conflicts change themselves. That's how it works. It doesn't mean difficulties will stop coming into our lives. It just means that we learn better ways in which how we can approach them. So what I love about this is the whole chasing thing, right? So accept and let go. Even if we eat the best meal of our lives, shortly thereafter, we'll be hungry again. Even if we begin making more money than we ever dreamed possible, we will still have to manage it properly and then worry about maintaining the lifestyle we have created. Even if we have our dream wedding and create our dream family, we will incessantly worry about everyone's health and well-being because death and loss are inevitable. We will always be chasing some new idea, some greater feeling, some further goal, some ultimate peace. Unless we let go of thinking we need pleasure, need to feel secure, or need to feel loved to be happy. We can have pleasure, security, and love, but these three things, if we're attached to them and fear losing them, will forever keep a gnawing goblin camped out in the back of our mind. Whoa! It's so true, though. We chase after these things, we achieve them, but then we start to fall into that holding tight mentality. So even if we get what we always wanted, it's impermanent. It's not going to last forever. And so if we're always worried about losing it, boom, there comes the stress, there comes the worry, there comes the suffering. So we must practice that acceptance and letting go. And so last but not least, let us see, what part do I want to read here? So reverse hold is acceptance and release. So we are so afraid of the shaky ground beneath our feet that we do some incredibly hurtful things to ourselves and others just to keep our falling house of cards together. We often spend our entire lives struggling to hold on to something that we feel we need, such as a marriage, relationship, job, identity, even that personal identity. Yet the effort makes us miserable each and every single day. I invite all of you to think about this. You know, this may not apply to everyone, but really think about like all these things that you're trying to, it's almost like a house of falling cards. You just have to keep your hands there or the whole thing's going to fall apart. If you feel that way, really take stock and ask yourself, well, what led me to this place? What led me to this position? You know, did this come from ego? Did this come from resisting something, chasing after something, and now I'm holding tight onto it? Or did it come from a genuine place of inspiration and authenticity, really being honest with yourself and honest with the people in your life? Chances are there may not have been that full honesty, and now you're stuck in a situation that you don't prefer. And then comes the most difficult part of returning, or for the first time being fully honest with yourself and others. And I'll tell you what, nothing is more healing than just radical honesty, not meanness. You never need to be mean, but you can be very kind with your honesty and just vulnerably recognize who you are and where you're at and what's going on, what's working, what's not working, rather than continuing to hold this facade together. You know, this illusion that a lot of times, the greatest example is, you know, we post all these happy pictures on Facebook about our life or about our marriages, and really on the inside, we're like screaming to get out. I laugh, you know, it's sad to think about. I don't get sad thinking about it because I recognize that there's growth involved and we're all doing the best we can for what we know. But collectively, it's sad to think about. We'll use that because it's more of a human term. It's sad to think about. But the beautiful thing is that it's just another opportunity for us to really get into this human experience. Rather than just going through the motions for the first time in our lives, we can step out of this push, pull, hold tight, egoic complex and start to communicate in different ways. We start to communicate by letting go. We start to communicate by releasing. We start to communicate by full acceptance. And I'm not saying, when I say let go, I don't mean, well, letting go of that job, letting go of this marriage. No, letting go of the control of needing to be right, of needing to be heard, and of needing to be loved. If you're in a loveless marriage, stop trying to get their love. Stop worrying about it. Maybe you've already gotten to that point, but there might still be that resentment to where you don't want to give that love anymore. Goodness, there's so many ins and outs of our lives to where our egos are holding back on love, holding back on vulnerability, holding back on acceptance because we're not receiving it. Or maybe we've given it all along and we're just like, I'm fed up, I've given it for so long and I'm not receiving it in return, so fuck it. But I guarantee you that you probably weren't giving it from a place of inner peace. You were giving it with an expectation of wanting it in return. That is not love, that is conditional love. There's expectations involved. But if you come from a place of a modern monk, then there's no problem in the love that you're giving because you have an endless font of it. The irony, here's a little truth I wasn't planning to go into, but it's fascinating to go into nonetheless, it's very interesting. Love completely transforms when you give it from a place of inner peace and you don't expect it in return. You have no expectation of it in return. You're not drained by giving it when you don't have an expectation of having it in return and you're coming from a place of peace. But when you give love from a place of wanting it in return, like you have an agenda, you're like, okay, I'm going to be nice, I'm going to give love to this person, but they need to give it back to me because I'm fucking drained, I'm tired, I'm doing all these things, then giving that love, of course, it's going to drain you even more. But again, it's because it's coming from a place of ego, it's coming from a place of attachment. You're in that push, pull, or hold tight mindset, and it's sapping your life force. And I know, I mean, I've taught this stuff enough, and I wish these words, if you are someone who's struggling with this, I wish these words could just, like, I could wave my wand and magically all these things, it may make sense, but to actually apply it is such a whole nother beast, a whole nother animal. It's difficult. So I recognize that me having this discussion is not going to make the problems go away. It's not going to instantly help you have inner peace in your life. But I hope this conversation at least gives you some thoughts to ponder. And maybe you can take this and lead it into a session with a professional or life coach or Zen teacher like myself, or bring it into a community that you're already part of, or bring it into your relationship and have an open communication. Because that's the key thing. When we don't recognize that ego is leading the charge, ego is leading our communication, then we're going to be in pain. But when we start to recognize that there is this pushing, that there is this pulling, this grasping for it, and there's this holding on to, then we can realize, okay, that is not me. I have believed it to be me. I have believed my thoughts, my impulses, my emotions. I have acted on it as if these thoughts, these impulses, these feelings and emotions are me. But really, that's the part of me that is the ego, the wounded self that is trying to find ground in life, trying to feel loved in life, trying to feel secure, trying to feel accepted, when all the while we're focusing on these external situations, but ignoring the inner self. Oh my goodness, every mystic throughout the ages, thousands and thousands of years, all these mystics, they say the same thing, but we keep looking externally. How many times are we going to have to hear that again? Look in, look inward, look inward, look inward. You have to love yourself before you can love anyone else. Yes, we can love other people, but we're not going to effectively love them until we love ourselves, until we have inner peace, because our love is always going to lead to attachment and then resentment. And we're going to fight and we're going to argue and all this stuff because we don't have that inner calm. We don't have that inner peace. Whew, such deliciousness. I could just go on for another 20 minutes, another 40 minutes, another hour, but that won't be useful. We'll let this marinate. So again, if you enjoyed this discussion, if you enjoyed this video, please consider buying my book. Like I said, a lot of money does go into the editing process, and it takes me hours and hours and weeks and sometimes months and months to write this, not to mention, the past 10 years of the training I've done, and oh my goodness, all the sessions had. So this book, I'm so grateful to be able to release the second edition. The first one was wonderful. The first Living Peace is great, but having these past 5 years to really kind of work with individuals and see what's landing and see what I can kind of explain more effectively, I put it in this book. So this is the accumulation of all of Alaric, all of the Alaric-isms that I have shared since beginning this journey. So yes, it is here if you want it. And again, I'll put the link down below, or you can just visit www.zencowboy.org and click under the teachings tab, and then the book will be there. Whew. Hashtag hot damn moments. We had a lot of hot damn moments in this video. Thank you all so much for joining in. If you like this video, as always, please give it a thumbs up. Please give it a share. Comment down below what really resonated with you. And again, if you have any questions, always feel free to reach out, and I will do my best to cover them in future videos. And if you ever want to work together, I'm here. I love doing long distance or in-person sessions. We always have a delicious conversation. There's always a lot of hot damn moments that we walk away with. So thank you, and blessed be. Mwah!